Now there's a feature in Moodle that you are probably going to use in every single course that you build. Now you don't have to, but just typically, because of the features that activity completion actually give you, most people will end up using it within a course. Because generally, let's be honest, when we take a course or when we are facilitating a course, we're wanting to be able to track a student's completion through each of the activities that they undertake. So in this particular example here, I'm just having a look at a simple course that I've just put together, built a little test course, and I put in 3 activity types in there. So I've got a forum, an assignment activity, and a little face-to-face session in there. If you have a look over the right-hand side of my page here, so in line with each of the rows that is relevant to each activity, the first row here I have an empty white space where my mouse is. The second one I have a square with a dotted line. And the third one, I have a square with a solid line. And this is where we can tell whether or not activity completion has been set up on an activity or not. So there's basically 3 variants of activity completion, and this is the 3 here. So the first one that is a blank white space, that means obviously the activity completion is not being tracked. The second one here with the dotted line means that it's being tracked automatically based on conditions being met by the student. And the third one here gives the student the ability to tick it themselves. So they can click on that and they can tick the box themselves. Really, really good for a student being able to sort of just manually track their own progress through a course. And actually being able to just say, all right, look, this is where I'm up to. They can go away for a week's time, come back, and they pick up just from where they left. So it's more just sort of an informal thing when you're actually using that process. So what I want to do in this lesson is just to show you how to turn on activity completion and where you configure it, and then also have a look mainly at the activity completion report, so you can see what that looks like and what information that's going to give you. So we'll go through that as we step through this video. So I've just gone into my course administration cog up the top right hand side, and I've turned my editing on. So what I'm going to do in the case of maybe my assignment activity here is we'll go in and we'll have a look at the completion settings that we have where we have when conditions are met that are currently turned on. So I'll click on edit and then edit settings of that assignment activity. And activity completion is located within every single activity type. And as you can see here, it's the third one from the bottom. So wherever it is located in your site, within your activity list, it'll always be in the same one for each of the activities. So this will always be third from the bottom in my across my site here. So I'll click on activity completion, and here are the drop-down options and all the conditions that we could set. So as I was explaining, there were 3 conditions, and there they are here. So do not let the student manually mark it, or mark it when conditions are met. Now, if you do select when conditions are met, the options below will become available to be selected, and you can then tick these as appropriate. Now, this sort of the conditions that Moodle can track vary from each activity type. So when we're trying to do activity completion on a resource activity or a resource type, the only thing that we can do is click that the student must view it to complete it. Now, a view is simply only when the student clicks on it and opens that particular resource. That is considered a view. It doesn't mean that they've read the entire thing or they watched the video to the end, for example. It just means that they've clicked on it and viewed it. Now, these vary. So for some, the most powerful activities, so maybe like a SCORM activity or a forum, they have about 6 different conditions that you can actually track against towards activity completion. And the lowest is probably about the 1 or the 2 mark. So it's sort of in the range of about 2 to 6 on any of the activity types that you can track against. So here we've got, they must view it to complete it, they must receive a grade, or maybe they just must submit an activity to complete it. So you can sort of tailor when this activity is going to be marked. So I might just simply say that the student must submit into this activity to complete it. Now, we also have the option as well to say that we expect this activity or these conditions to be met by a certain date as well. So if they miss that date, well, obviously, even if they've met those conditions, they've missed the date, so they've passed that activity completion due date, effectively. So you have that option as well. So that is a separate option, obviously, to the conditions, so it is separate. So you can set the conditions and then choose whether or not you set and expect a date that you expect them to complete those conditions by. So once you finish that, that's basically activity completion set up. And what we can do is go save and return to course, and then that will be reflected accordingly in our menu over there on the right-hand side there. So if I just quickly take a really quick moment, we'll just turn one on for that forum activity. So I'll click Edit Settings. I'm going to scroll down We'll say activity completion, and I'll say show the activity is complete when the conditions are met. Here you can see we have quite a few conditions with the forum activity, and I might say that the student must post at least 2 discussions or replies. That's now covered off there. We can say save and return to course. And that's how easy it is. So really nice and easy to set it up. So I've now got 3 activities in there, and each one of them has completion set up on it. Now we're at the point where I sort of want to go, okay, well, this is great, but how do I know? How do I see which students have completed what activities? And what the activity completion report within Moodle does is it gives you a course-by-course report. So this is a report specific to the activities in this course. And it's a really, really good way to easily be able to see in a nice visual way who has done what and who has achieved what. So if I click on my course administration cog and I go down to the More option right down the very bottom, this will then bring me up to my course admin menu. And if I scroll down slightly under reports, the report section here, you'll see that I have an activity completion report. Now just remember that if you don't see the activity completion report on this list, it means you don't have an instance of activity completion set up at all. So just be mindful of that. So obviously if it's not here, it means you haven't set up any as yet. So I'll click on activity completion. And what this is now going to show me is I'm going to see from here, so I've got the one person that is enrolled into this course. This is who I'm looking at. I can filter by their first and last name initials. And then it shows me all the activities that have activity completion turned on in a list on the right-hand side here. So if an activity didn't have it turned on, it wouldn't appear here. These are only the ones that are either automatically or manually, by the student marking it, have activity completion set up. So we have introduce yourself, there's the assignment activity, and there's the face-to-face activity. So as a student would go through and they were to actually partake in this, if they ticked an item, it would come across here, and if they didn't. So I can then see a range of students, whether it might be 50 or 100 students. I can see where they're at. Maybe I can pinpoint that some, most of them are 90% of the way through the course. There's only 1 activity left. And then there's a couple that are lagging behind. They've maybe only done 1 or 2 activities. And I can then choose to pinpoint those and follow up and see, is there some assistance they need? Are they having problems? Now, all these reports can be downloaded in Excel format. So you can download them for your own reference or backup, or like archive just for your own records. It can also be a way that you can then filter it and you can graph and chart that data as well. So some really good options. It gives you that flexibility around that there. The last thing I just wanted to say about activity completion, when we're looking at especially activities that have a grade available with them, things like the quiz activity have the ability for you to say that they must be complete and have a passing grade as well. And what that looks like when you're looking at this report is activity completion, when a student meets the condition, you generally will get a blue tick. Now that blue tick means that they've met the conditions. If you ever do see a green tick or a red cross, that means that they're actually being tracked against a minimum grade as well. So a green tick will mean that they have passed the assessment task with a passing grade. A red cross will mean that they have completed the activity, but they have a failing grade. So they're the 3 items you're looking for, either a blue tick, a green tick, or a red cross. And they're the things that you're looking for within activity completion.